A 9 months pregnant woman is soaking her feet in a Los Angeles nail shop. Her boyfriend, freshly home from a California state prison, by the way, is pointed at her with a camera, live streaming to thousands of people, asking the nail technician a question no nail technician in recorded human history should ever have to answer on the clock. And somehow, that's not even the weirdest part of the afternoon, because between the pedicure bowls and the polish bottles, this man quietly ran a full investigative survey on every woman in his orbit, in a nail salon, on a Tuesday. Stick around, because the toes were just the cover story. Real quick, while she's picking a color. If you're the type who rewinds streams frame by frame like we do, hit like, subscribe, tap the bell. What's coming after the polish dries is where it gets genuinely uncomfortable. Here's the skeleton of it. Blueface, Johnathan Porter, took his girlfriend Nevaeh Akira, due with their son on the 24th of this month, to a nail salon for what he framed as a pampering date. He live-streamed the entire thing. The wild request, your timeline is clipping up? Mid-pedicure, he turned to the nail tech, Sydney, doing her job, minding her business, and asked whether she'd do for a man what Nevaeh allegedly did for him the night before, involving his feet. On camera, in front of thousands. But watch the full stream, and the toe question is just the loudest moment, not the realest one. Now, before we touch a single receipt, I need you to understand something about how this channel approaches a stream like this. The internet already did its pass. The internet clipped the loudest 45 seconds, slapped a shock-face thumbnail on it, and moved on to the next outrage. That's the timeline economy. Volume over accuracy, speed over context. And look, I get it. The clip is funny. It's uncomfortable in the way a car crash at low speed is uncomfortable. But the clip economy has a fatal flaw. And it's the flaw this entire video is built on. The clip is chosen by the algorithm. And the algorithm does not care what a moment means. It cares what a moment does. And what this moment did was travel. What it meant is something else entirely. And the meaning is hiding in the other 90+% of the footage that nobody bothered to sit through. We sat through it. All of it. Twice. And what we found is that the nail salon stream is not a blooper. It is not an oops. It is not a man forgetting the camera is on. It is a fully produced piece of programming with segments, callbacks, audience participation mechanics, and a closing logistics beat. And once you see the structure, you cannot unsee it. Every strange little moment that felt random on first watch snaps into place on the second. The compliments, the order at the menu, the surveys, the subscription math, even the camera directions, especially the camera directions. So here's the promise, and we keep our promises on this channel. By the end of this video, you will never be able to watch a crazy rapper does crazy thing clip the same way again, because you're in to learn to see the machinery. And the machinery, once visible, is way more interesting than the chaos it manufactures. One more framing note before we go in, because fairness is the whole brand here. Nothing in this video is an allegation of anything illegal. Nothing in this video claims to know what anyone feels in their heart. Everything we're about to walk through is built from the man's own live stream, the couple's own public statements, and reporting from outlets we name out loud and link, so you can check every single one yourself. Where something is disputed, we'll say it's disputed. Where something is a read, an interpretation, a theory, a vibe with evidence, we'll flag it as a read. That's the deal. The tape does the talking. We're just the closed captions. Let's put the exact words on the table first. No spin yet. Just tape. And I want to explain why we start with a quote bank, because it matters to everything that comes after. Most commentary videos work backwards. They give you the conclusion first, and then curate the evidence to fit it. You've watched 100 of those. They feel good, and they're worth nothing. We're doing it the other way. Words first, interpretation second. Because the words in this stream are doing something sneaky. Individually, each one is defensible. Sweet even. It's only when you line them up in a row, like suspects against a wall, that the pattern shows. So no spin yet. Tape first. Early in the stream, Blueface tells his chat, and I quote, "I'm just pampering my baby mama on her final days." Final days meaning before the baby, due August 24th, per a conception date confirmation that circulated with a professional verifying December 1st, 2025, as the start date. He says it's sweet. It lands sweet. Hold on to that, because the sweetness has a shelf life of about 40 minutes. Let's stay on final days for a second, because the phrase is doing quiet work. It's tender, but it's also programming language. Final days is a countdown. A countdown is a format. Anybody who's watched reality television or followed a streaming rollout knows the countdown beat. The last days of summer, the last days before the wedding, the last days before the album. It converts a private life event into a ticking clock the audience can follow. Is that cynical? Maybe. Or maybe it's just how a man who has spent years living in public learned to talk about his own life. Either way, file it. Because by the end of this stream, you'll see that every beat of this pregnancy has been time-stamped, branded, and serialized. And Final Days is the season finale language sneaking in early. Then comes the order. Nevaeh's getting the hard gel overlay, and Blueface points at the menu and asks for, quote, the golden manicure, the most expensive one. The technician confirms 2 separate services, the fill and the overlay. He's nodding like a man signing off on a mortgage. Keep the most expensive one in your pocket. It matters later. And here's why it matters later. A small thing. But this channel is built on small things. Nobody at a nail salon asks for the most expensive one for themselves. That's not a purchase. That's a statement purchase. The menu in that moment isn't a menu. It's a prop. Ordering the top line item on camera accomplishes 3 things at once. It performs generosity toward Nevaeh. It performs wealth toward the chat. And it creates a receipt. Literally. We'll get to the receipt. That can be reviewed on camera as its own content beat later in the same stream. Watch how it plays out. He doesn't just buy the golden manicure. He buys it, announces it, and then audits the bill in front of thousands of people. That's not a transaction. That's a 3-act structure with a tip at the end. Now the moment. Nevaeh mentions, casually, mid-massage chair, something about his feet being, quote, all in his last night, referencing him. Blueface seizes it like a prosecutor who just got handed Exhibit A. He turns to Sydney, the nail tech. Would you do that to your man? You want to? Look, you can hear the clip yourself. And then declares to the room. Sydney would do it too. Sydney, to her eternal credit, keeps painting. That woman earned every cent of that tip. Let's give Sydney her flowers properly, because she is the accidental hero of this entire stream. And the way she handles this moment is a masterclass. Think about what was put on her. She's an hourly worker, at her job, in her workplace, and a famous stranger, with a live audience of thousands, turns to her and asks her to publicly co-sign an intimate act involving another customer's feet. There's no correct answer to that question. Yes is humiliating. No is humiliating. Silence is content. And Sydney finds the 4th option. She keeps painting. She treats the question like it was never asked. She gives the camera nothing, and in doing so she becomes the only person in the entire frame who successfully refused to be cast in the show. Everybody else in that salon had a role assigned to them. Sydney declined the part. If you're keeping score at home, one person in that room understood exactly what was happening and opted out in real time, and it was the woman holding the nail file. And there's a darker little mechanic inside that moment worth naming, because it's not the last time it happens. Watch who he directs the question to. Not Nevaeh. She's the co-star. She can't be the audience surrogate. Not the chat. They're the home audience. He directs it to the one person in the room who didn't sign up for any of this. It's the oldest move in ambush entertainment. Pull a bystander into the bit, because a bystander's discomfort reads as authenticity. Actors can fake reactions. Nail technicians can't. The genuine flinch of a real person is the most valuable currency in this genre. And he went straight for it. I'm not saying he sat at home diagramming this. I'm saying instincts like that don't come from nowhere. They come from reps, years of reps. And the quote that should have been the headline but got buried under the tone noise. Midstream, out of nowhere, he announces, we've declared it on this side of the circus. We won't do any children bashing. Declared. Like a policy. Like a press secretary statement. On a Pedicure live stream. Wild. Let's actually sit inside this one. Because the more you stare at it, the stranger it gets. First, the word declared. People don't declare things to themselves. Declarations are for audiences. You declare policies when there are stakeholders watching, when there's a record being kept, when you expect the statement to be quoted back at you later. He is speaking to his chat the way an organization speaks to its press pool. Second, the word circus. This is his own long-standing word for the extended universe of women, exes, managers, and personalities orbiting his content. Keep it in mind. It becomes load-bearing later. Third, and most important, the content of the declaration. A no-children bashing rule is, on its face, decent. Genuinely. Kids should be off limits. That's not controversial. But ask yourself the timing question. Why does this rule need to be announced now, on this stream? 2 weeks before a birth. Policies get announced when enforcement is about to become relevant. A man declaring a children-bashing moratorium days before his child arrives isn't just being protective. He's pre-writing the terms of engagement for the coverage he knows is coming. He is, in effect, issuing community guidelines for his own comment section. On a Tuesday, between polished coats. And one more layer on it, because this is the kind of thing that separates a read from a reach. A declared rule is also a future plot device. Once you announce a rule on camera, every future violation of that rule, by anyone in the orbit, becomes content. Somebody crosses the line. The rule gets invoked. The clip travels. He didn't just make a moral statement. He installed a tripwire, whether he meant to or not. "We won't do any children bashing" is now a standing headline template. So-and-so broke Blueface rule. That's not paranoia. That's just how the ecosystem he lives in metabolizes statements. He knows that ecosystem better than almost anyone alive. He grew it. Also on record, Nevaeh, 9 months deep, telling the chat flatly, "I want to go into labor." And Blueface, reviewing the bill, $160, $125, $110, plus a $46 French tip service, muttering, "I ain't never spent that much before." "Sir, you ordered the most expensive one. We have you on tape." Both tapes. That bill moment deserves its own paragraph, because it is the single cleanest example in the whole stream of the 2-track performance this man runs at all times. Track 1, the flex, the golden manicure, the most expensive one. Track 2, the relatability beat. "I ain't never spent that much before." Both lines are for the audience. The flex is for the part of the chat that wants aspiration. The sticker shock is for the part of the chat that wants to feel like he's still one of them. He is running a 2-demographic broadcast out of one pedicure chair, and he switches between the tracks so smoothly you almost miss the seam. Almost, because the seam is the receipt itself. He chose the top line item and then performed surprise at the total. Nobody makes that face at a bill they ordered on purpose unless the face is the product. And the face traveled. That's the tell. The muttering got clipped nearly as much as the toe question. 2 audiences, 2 clips, 1 bill. Efficient. And Nevaeh's line, "I want to go into labor," sits in the middle of all this machinery, like a human being accidentally wandering onto a soundstage. 9 months pregnant, feet in the bowl, and what she says is not a content line. There's no setup, no punchline, no audience angle. It's just a woman who is done being pregnant saying so out loud. Hold onto the texture of that line, because later, when we stack up everything she says in this stream against everything he says, you're going to notice a difference in register. And that difference turns out to be one of the most quietly important things in the entire 9-month saga. She talks like a person. He talks like a broadcast. And they are sitting 2 feet apart. One more, because it aged like milk in real time. When the pregnancy first went public, the pair told Complex the situation felt, quote, immaculate. Immaculate. Keep that word in the freezer too. We're pulling it back out. Okay, now we lay the beads on the string. And before we do, a word about why timelines are the whole game. Individual moments can always be explained away. Any single clip, any single quote, any single suspicious beat has an innocent reading available if you're generous enough. That's why denial works. You attack the moments one at a time, and each one dies on its own. But moments don't live one at a time. They live in sequence. And sequence is the enemy of coincidence. 1 odd beat is an accident. 2 is a habit. 6 arranged in a row, with a camera present at every single one. That's not coincidence anymore. That's a system. So we lay the beads on the string, and we let the string speak. November 2025. Blueface walks out of a California facility after serving roughly 2 years of a 4-year sentence. XXL confirmed the release, and BET's report matches the timeline. And according to widely circulated clips, he wasted, quote, zero time, linking up with content creator Nevaeh Akira almost immediately after getting home. Now, let's be fair and precise about what zero time means, because precision is what separates this channel from the gossip accounts. Nobody is claiming to know the hour he made a phone call or the day a relationship became a relationship. What the public record shows is a release in November, per XXL and BET, and a relationship that was public-facing almost immediately thereafter. And context matters here. This is a man who spent roughly 2 years in a facility where the one resource he did not have was an audience. Think about what 2 years of silence does to a person whose entire economy runs on attention. Music streams decay. Relevance decays faster. The algorithm has no loyalty and no memory. When he walked out that gate, he wasn't just a free man. He was a channel that had been dark for 2 years in an industry where 6 weeks of silence is a career event. The pressure to come back loud wasn't artistic. It was arithmetic. December 1st, 2025. Conception date. Per the couple's own on-stream confirmation with a professional verifying it. Do that math quietly. November release. December 1st. The man had a to-do list, and to-do was item 1. And I want to be careful here, because this is the kind of math that gets irresponsible fast. So let's be responsible. The December 1st date comes from the couple's own on-stream confirmation, with a professional involved in verifying it. That's their framing, their disclosure, their choice to put on camera. We're not speculating about anyone's private medical life. We're noting what they chose to disclose, and when they chose to disclose it, because that's the part that belongs to this analysis. The disclosure itself is a content decision. Most couples guard a conception window like a state secret. This couple put it on a stream with a verifier attached. Ask the question the tape keeps asking. Who was that information for? Because it sure wasn't for the two people in the relationship. They already knew. March 1st, 2026. The gender reveal. And here's the part the timeline skips right past. During that era, clips circulated of Blueface appearing to slip up and unclaim the baby on stream. And separately, his own manager Whack 100 reportedly pulled up to question Nevaeh directly. His own manager, doing paternity due diligence. On camera. That's not a trust exercise. That's an audit. Let's slow this down, because this is the hinge of the whole 9 months, and nearly every recap of this saga sprints right past it. A gender reveal is, in the normal world, the single most pre-committed a man can be to a child short of the birth itself. You don't rent the balloon arch for a baby you have doubts about. And yet in that same era, per circulated clips, you have the father appearing to unclaim the baby on stream. And you have the manager. Not a cousin, not a friend. The manager. The person whose professional stake is in the brand, reportedly showing up to question the mother directly, on camera. Those two beats happening in the same season as the reveal is a contradiction the size of a house. Either the doubt was real and the reveal was premature, or the reveal was on schedule and the doubt was the performance. And here's the uncomfortable part. In this ecosystem, both of those readings are monetizable. Doubt is content. Reconciliation is content. The only version of events that produces no content at all is quiet, consistent certainty. And that is the one version we never got. Then, actually hold on, back up, because this part is the part. Between March and July, the public posture flipped from unclaimed to full domestic rollout. Baby shower announced for July 31st. And not just announced. The shade room noted the location was gated behind buying a gift from the registry. The baby shower had a paywall. A baby shower, with a monetization layer. Sit with that mechanism for a second, because it's easy to laugh at and harder to actually see. A gift registry is normal. Every expecting family has one. There's nothing wrong with it. What's not normal is the gate. The reported requirement that access to the event's location runs through a purchase. What that does mechanically is convert guests into customers and a family milestone into a ticketed activation. And notice what it also does. It creates a list. Everyone who buys through the registry to unlock the location is now a known, identified, purchase verified member of the audience. That's not a guest list. That's a customer relationship database, wearing a party hat. I'm not saying anyone sat in a room and whiteboarded it that way. I'm saying the incentive structure doesn't care about intent. Build a paywall around a milestone and you have, by definition, turned the milestone into a product. The Shade Room flagged it. And then the news cycle did what the news cycle does, which is move on in 6 hours. We don't move on. That's the job. July 31st, 2026, shower day. Same day, conveniently, TMZ runs a story built entirely off Blueface's own on-stream commentary about the pregnancy. Same day content pipeline. Stream it, clip it, sell it, TMZ it. And let's be exact about what's actually remarkable in that sequence, because TMZ covered a celebrity is not news. That's gravity. What's remarkable is the same day part and the sourcing part. The story wasn't built off an interview, an event, a court filing, a paparazzi shot. It was built off the man's own commentary from his own stream, per TMZ's piece, which means the supply chain runs. He speaks, the stream captures it, the clips circulate, the outlet packages it, the package drives traffic back to him. He is simultaneously the source, the subject, and a beneficiary of the coverage. That's not a man being covered by the media. That's a man who has figured out how to wholesale to the media. And the date alignment shower day, story day, means the two biggest attention events of that week amplified each other instead of competing. Whether that timing was coordinated or just the natural rhythm of an ecosystem tuned to his output, that question doesn't have a public answer. But it's the right question, and nobody else is asking it out loud. So we are. And now August, the nail salon stream. 2-ish weeks before the due date, which is when a normal couple is nesting, and this couple is running audience surveys in a pedicure chair. You seeing the pattern? Every single milestone, release, conception, reveal, shower, birth, has a camera bolted to it. Not one private beat in 9 months. Actually, wait, let me be fair. Maybe the cameras are the point. We'll get there. One more bead before we move to the microscope, because it's the bead nobody strings. This is not the first time this man has run a relationship as a public serial. The Jaden Alexis chapter runs roughly a decade of on and off, per Hot New Hip Hop's timeline. The Cruzean Rock chapter has its own permanent, exhaustively documented timeline over at the Shade Room, which means the Nevaeh era is not an anomaly. It is the third installation of a format, and formats improve with iteration. Season 1 teaches you what the audience rewards. Season 2 teaches you what they punish. By Season 3, the producer isn't guessing anymore. He knows exactly which beats travel, exactly which words get clipped, exactly how much access to sell and when. That's the timeline under the timeline. November to August isn't 9 months of a relationship. It's the latest season of a show that's been in production, off and on, for 10 years. Now we zoom all the way in. Fragments only. First lens, the surveys. This is the part almost nobody clipped, and I had to watch it twice to believe it. Sitting in that chair, Blueface runs his chat through a formal questionnaire about the circus, his word for the extended cast of women and personalities orbiting his content universe. Direct quotes from the stream. Who's the biggest snake in the circus? Who's most likely to get married? Who could I leave the circus to if I was in the penitentiary? Who could I call from that jail phone? Listen to the framing. He isn't gossiping. He's polling. He tells the chat, quote, "It's my job to narrate and direct you guys." He calls himself the mediator. Then a minute later, and this is the tell, he calls himself the ringleader. Mediator is the public-facing title. Ringleader is the org chart. He said the quiet part between two polished coats. Let's inventory what those survey questions actually are, structurally, because each one is a different instrument. Who's the biggest snake in the circus? That's a villain poll. It asks the audience to rank conflict, and ranking conflict tells the producer which feuds have fuel left. Who's most likely to get married? That's a romance futures market. It measures which pairings the audience is emotionally invested in, which is another way of saying which future storylines already have a built-in viewership. And who could I leave the circus to if I was in the penitentiary? Who could I call from that jail phone? That's the one that should make you sit up, because that's a succession question. That's a man polling his audience on continuity of operations. on who holds the franchise if the franchise player is unavailable, which, given that he is roughly 9 months removed from California facility, is not an abstract hypothetical to him. He's not daydreaming. He's doing contingency planning out loud in a nail salon and billing it as banter. And the self-titles, mediator, then ringleader, deserve the full treatment because slippage like that is the closest thing you ever get to a confession in this genre. A mediator stands between parties. A ringleader stands above them. The first title describes a role inside the drama. The second describes ownership of the drama. And notice the order. The respectable title comes first, the true one comes second, and the gap between them is about 60 seconds and 2 coats of polish. This is how the truth always comes out on these streams, not in statements, in slippage. Nobody announces, I run the show. They announce, I mediate the show. And then, when the energy in the room is warm and the chat is laughing, the real job title falls out of their mouth, like spare change. If you've watched enough of this ecosystem, you know, the slip is never the accident. The slip is the product. The careful version is the costume. Second lens, the kick. Yes, we're going there. Midstream, Nevaeh play kicks him. Chat escalates, and within 90 seconds it becomes a subscription drive. Quote, sub up if y'all want to see the kick land. He names a number, 12,800-ish subs, and then watches the counter and reports, deadpan, that 97 subs came in. Guess my. Well, he assigns his own body a dollar value. Let's put it that way. A physical stunt priced in subscriptions, executed inside a nail salon, while the mother of his unborn child sits adjacent getting a French tip. I don't even have a joke here. The machinery is just that visible. And because we do receipts here, let's actually run the math he ran, because the math is the most honest moment in the stream. He sets a threshold, roughly 12,800 subs, and the counter delivers 97, which means the live conversion rate on that stunt was well under 1% of the ask. Now, most performers would bury that number. A soft performer would round up, change the subject, claim the counter lagged. He reads it out loud, deadpan, and assigns his own body the resulting dollar value. Why? Because in this economy, even the failure is content. A successful subdrive is a flex. A failed subdrive is a self-deprecation beat, and self-deprecation, deployed by someone who was flexing the golden manicure 40 minutes earlier, is range. 2 demographics, 1 stream, remember? The only outcome that would have actually hurt him is nobody reacting at all. He'd rather read you his own embarrassing conversion rate than let the beat die. That tells you the real currency isn't the subscriptions. It's the engagement event, the moment the chat all does something at once. The 97 subs are a rounding error. The shared moment is the asset. Third lens, the feet. And no, not the part your timeline clipped. The other feet moment. Blueface instructs whoever's holding the camera. Get some close-ups, get her toes, hands, get the cuticles, work on your sniper game shots. Sniper game. He has vocabulary for this. This is a man who understands, at a cellular level, that certain niche audiences pay attention to certain details. I'm not alleging anything. I'm saying the man directed foot cinematography with the confidence of someone who's read the analytics. Let's be adults about this for 1 paragraph, because the safe move is to giggle, and the honest move is to look at it. Every platform this man operates on has an analytics dashboard, and every analytics dashboard tells the same story to anyone willing to read it. Which segments get rewatched, which thumbnails get clicked, which frames get screenshotted. When a creator says, get the close-ups, work on your sniper game, he is reciting a lesson the dashboard already taught him. That's not an accusation, it's just literacy. He reads his own metrics fluently, and the fluency shows in the vocabulary. And here's the part worth sitting with. The instruction wasn't about the stream's visual quality. Nobody directs cuticle close-ups for cinematic reasons. The close-up exists for a specific segment of the audience whose engagement patterns are, reportedly and anecdotally across the creator economy, among the most reliable in the entire attention market. I'm not saying that's who he was serving. I'm saying he knows they exist. He knows what they watch. And he adjusted the camera accordingly. Draw your own map. I just work here. And the behavioral one, the quietest detail in the whole stream. Nevaeh mentions her mom flying in for the shower, and Blueface says, reportedly without prompting, per circulated clips, "You can't have a baby shower without your mom," and books the ticket. His own dad, he notes, couldn't attend things because he was on house arrest. Read those two facts side by side. He knows exactly what an absent parent at a milestone does to a kid. He lived the other side of it. Underneath the circus, there's a man overcorrecting in real time. That one hit different. Moving on before I get soft. Okay, I lied. We're staying on it for one more beat, because it's the most important 60 seconds of the entire stream, and it got clipped by exactly no one. Everything else we've covered, the surveys, the sub-drive, the sniper shots, is performance for an audience of thousands. But the plane ticket beat is different, and the way you can tell it's different is that there's no audience angle in it. He doesn't poll the chat on it. He doesn't price it. He doesn't clip it. He just says the thing. You can't have a baby shower without your mom. And acts on it, reportedly without being asked. And then he supplies the reason, unprompted. His own father, house arrest, the missed milestones. That's the one moment in the whole broadcast where the man talks like the record of his own life, instead of the narrator of it. And I'm flagging it not to be soft, but because it's evidence. Evidence that the performance is a layer and not the whole person. You cannot accurately read the show if you refuse to see the man. The man, in that moment, was a son filling a seat his own father never got to fill. That's real. And the fact that it's real is exactly what makes the rest of the machinery so complicated to judge. Keep both things in your hands. We're going to need them both. Now watch how the same 9 months got packaged 3 different ways. And before the 3-way split, a note on why the packaging matters as much as the events. In a normal news cycle, coverage is downstream of reality. Things happen, then outlets report them. In the attention economy, the relationship runs backwards more often than anyone admits. Coverage shapes reality, because the coverage is what the next content decision responds to. Which outlet covers you, in what tone, with which clip, determines what the chat is angry about tomorrow, which determines what the next stream addresses, which generates the next clip. It's a loop, not a line. So when we look at how TMZ, Complex, and the Shade Room each package the same 9 months, we're not grading journalism. We're mapping the feedback machine. TMZ's lane, as always, is the Gutter Horizon scan. Their July 31st piece took a single crude stream comment and built the entire headline off it. No context, no timeline, no WAC 100 audit, no registry paywall. Just the most clickable 12 words in the transcript. That's not reporting. That's strip mining. And to be precise about the strip mining metaphor, because it's load-bearing. Strip mining isn't wrong about what's in the ground. The quote is real. The commentary happened. It's his own stream, his own words, as we covered in the timeline. What the model strips away is everything around the seam. The date alignment with the shower, the fact that the comment was one beat in a longer broadcast, the entire architecture this video is built on. And here's the symbiosis nobody names. This isn't a hostile extraction. A story built from a streamer's own on-stream commentary is the safest story in celebrity media. There's no sourcing risk, no denial exposure, no legal friction, because the subject supplied the material himself, in public, on the record. TMZ's piece didn't need a single anonymous source. He is the source. When your worst coverage is built entirely from your own microphone, the coverage isn't happening to you. It's happening with you. That's the part of the TMZ lane that should make you recalibrate what negative press even means in 2026. Complex went the opposite direction. Their pregnancy confirmation coverage leaned soft focus, led with the immaculate quote, and buried the lead that Blueface had previously alleged they'd broken up. The reconciliation whiplash got one clause. 1. The whiplash I asked the story, and it got a dependent clause. Let's talk about why the soft focus lane exists at all, because it's not laziness, it's access economics. Outlets that cover an artist's music career need the artist alive, cooperative, and returning their messages for the next decade. A hard-edged pregnancy piece risks the relationship. A warm one buys goodwill that compounds. That's not corruption. It's just the structure of music media, and readers deserve to see the strings. But look at the cost. Buried in that complex coverage is the single most newsworthy fact in the entire confirmation story. The couple had publicly fractured and reformed before announcing a child. That's the timeline hinge. That's the thing every reader actually needed to evaluate the word immaculate. And it got a dependent clause, because the warm lane doesn't do hinges. So the reader walked away with the aesthetic of the story and none of the load-bearing structure. 2 lanes down, 1 to go. And the Shade Room played the long game. Their relationship timeline coverage keeps the Krisian Rock chapter permanently adjacent to every new development, which frames Nevaeh not as a partner, but as a successor. Meanwhile, hot new hip-hop's Jaden Alexis timeline reminds everyone this man has run an on-again, off-again relationship for roughly a decade. And IB Times framed the whole thing as a love triangle economics problem, noting that by late 2025 he distanced from both Krisian and Jaden while launching something. The Shade Room lane deserves a closer look because it's the most sophisticated of the 3. Keeping the Krisian timeline permanently adjacent isn't just editorial habit, it's an investment strategy. Timeline pages are evergreen assets. They get updated, not replaced, which means every new development in the Nevaeh era adds value to the old page, and every old page frames the new development. It's compounding interest on a story, and the effect on Nevaeh is real whether anyone intends it or not. When your introduction to an audience is a hyperlink away from a decade of documented predecessors, for both the Shade Room and hot new hip-hop, you don't get to be a person first. You get to be a chapter first. Chapter 3. The audience meets you with the previous 2 seasons already loaded, and every move you make gets scored against the reruns. That's not a relationship context. That's a franchise context. And remember whose word circus is. The frame didn't come from the media. The media just kept the receipts the ringleader handed them. Now, the loudest counter-narrative. And I want to steelman it for a second. The pushback goes, y'all are haters. Man came home from prison, settled down, got his girl pregnant, flies her mom out, buys her the most expensive manicure on the menu, declares a no-kid bashing rule on his own stream. That's growth. That's a father. And honestly, there's a version of this story where that's true. The ticket for the mom is real. The final days, pampering framing is real. And let me strengthen the Steelman past, where its own fans usually take it. Because if we're going to knock it down, it has to be the strong version. The strongest version goes like this. A man who lost 2 years to a facility comes home with nothing but time already served and a clock ticking on his relevance. He doesn't owe the public a private life. Nobody does. If he chooses to broadcast his relationship, that's his right. And if broadcasting it is also how he feeds the family he's building, in an industry where his earning window is short and his record makes half the doors close on sight, then the camera isn't exploitation. It's a job. Plenty of families film their lives. The entire family vlogging economy exists, and half the people dunking on this stream watch it happily when the aesthetic is suburban. Add the plane ticket. Add the no children bashing declaration. Add the fact that Nevaeh is, by every on-camera indication, a willing and often amused participant who says what she wants, including, I want to go into labor, on her own account. That's the strong version. It deserves to be heard at full volume before it gets stress tested. But here's where it collapses. Growth doesn't need a camera bolted to it. You don't declare a morality policy on the same stream where you auction a kick to your own body for subscriptions. You don't get to claim private family man energy while your baby shower location sits behind a registry purchase. Both things can't be the real one. And the tape, the surveys, the ringleader comment, the sniper shots, tells you which one he thinks is. And one more stress test the Steelman never survives, and it's the subtlest one in this whole video. The counter-narrative treats the camera as a neutral observer of the growth. But we just spent an entire forensic movement showing that the camera isn't observing the events. The events are being shaped for the camera. The order at the menu, the bill review, the survey, the sub-drive, the directing of close-ups. The strong version of the defense says he's living his life and filming it. The tape says the filming came first and the living got scheduled around it. That distinction, observer versus architect, is the entire ballgame. And it's not a vibe. It's visible in the vocabulary, the segment structure, and the fact that every single beat we've documented arrives pre-framed for clipping. A man living his life with a camera nearby occasionally catches lightning. This man catches lightning on schedule, 2 weeks before a due date, in a pedicure chair, with a survey loaded and ready. Lightning doesn't keep appointments. Producers do. All right, Here's the read nobody's printing, so we will. The mainstream coverage treats this nail salon stream as a comedy clip. Haha. Crazy rapper asks toe question. Even the critical coverage treats it as chaos. Wild man does wild things. Film at 11. Both of those framings are wrong. And here's the pivot that nobody's making. This wasn't a date that got live streamed. It was a live stream that had a date inside it. Look at the architecture. He didn't take Nevaeh out and happen to stream. He built a programming block, pampering segment, audience survey segment, stunt pricing segment, retail segment. The man ordered the golden manicure, the most expensive one on camera, which is a flex content beat, and closed with a baby shower logistics segment. That's a rundown. That's a show. Nevaeh is billed as the co-star. The chat is billed as the focus group. And the circus, his own word, is the expanded universe. And once you see the nail salon as a soundstage, every weird moment redecodes. The surveys about who's the biggest snake and who's most likely to get married. That's not messiness. That's market research. He's polling his audience on which characters have the most gravity, while the women in question, Chrisian, Jaden, the whole orbit, are generating engagement whether they participate or not. Remember the decade-long on and off with Jaden Alexis and the permanent adjacency of the Chrisian chapter? That's not baggage. In this model, that's back catalog. And the back catalog point deserves a full paragraph because it flips the way everyone talks about this man's history. The conventional framing is that the Chrisian chapter and the Jaden chapter are baggage, scandals he carries, drama that follows him, a messy past dragging behind a man trying to settle down. That's the Framing the Shade Room's timeline pages, and Hot New Hip Hop's decade recap get read through. But baggage only weighs you down if you're trying to leave it. What if he's not trying to leave it? In the franchise model, 10 years of documented on and off relationships isn't a liability. It's a library. Every old storyline is a pre-sold audience. Every ex is a character with established gravity who can be reactivated with a single survey question. He doesn't have to convince the chat to care about the circus cast. The caring is already done, banked, earning interest on timeline pages he doesn't even have to maintain. Other creators spend years building lore. He walked out of a facility in November with a decade of lore already installed in the audience's head. That's not a comeback story. That's a catalog acquisition. And the nail salon survey is what catalog owners do. They audit the collection, the jab that writes itself. Man spent 4 years worth of sentence learning one skill, and it wasn't music. Say what you want about Thoshiana. The prison bid apparently came with a producer credit. And to be clear about what I mean by producer credit, because the joke lands better when it's accurate. A producer doesn't perform. A producer packages. A producer looks at raw material, people, conflicts, moments, milestones, and figures out the order, the pacing, the reveal schedule, the audience. Now scroll back through everything we've documented. The countdown language of final days. The retail beat with the golden manicure. The villain pole and the romance futures market. The stunt with a named subscription threshold. The succession question. The closing logistics segment about the shower. None of that is performance. All of it is packaging. The music made him famous, but fame is common and cheap. What's rare? What's actually scarce in the attention economy? Is someone who can look at an ordinary Tuesday errand and see a programming block. You can call that cynical. You can call it survival. You cannot call it an accident. Accidents don't have rundowns. And spare a thought for the actual sharpest observer in this whole ecosystem. Whack 100. His own manager reportedly pulled up to question Nevaeh on camera during the reveal era. Everyone read that as loyalty to Blueface. Read it again. A manager's job is protecting the asset. If the asset is the show, then a paternity question isn't personal, it's continuity. You don't let an unverified plotline into the canon. That's not a friend checking a girlfriend. That's a network standards department. And once you adopt the standards department reading, other beats in the timeline retroactively sharpen. The conception date being confirmed on stream with a professional verifying it. Remember that detail from the quote bank? Read it through the network lens. That's not a couple sharing news. That's a production authenticating a plotline. The audit in March for the circulated footage of Whack 100 questioning Nevaeh and the verification infrastructure around the pregnancy are the same behavior at different points on the calendar. Due diligence on the canon. And here's the question that should keep you up tonight, because it doesn't have a comfortable answer. If the manager audits the storylines, and the ringleader polls the audience on the characters, and the media packages the output in 3 different lanes, what's Nevaeh's job title? Co-star is the generous answer. She's in the billing. She's in the frame. But co-stars get script approval, and nothing in 9 months of tape suggests anyone ran the rundown past her first. She found out the show's subject matter the way the chat did, live. Meanwhile, Nevaeh, and I'll give her this, she might be the only person in the frame playing it straight, sits there 9 months pregnant saying, I want to go into labor, while her date runs audience segmentation 4 feet away. The Complex interview said the pregnancy felt immaculate. Conceived, per their own confirmation, within a month of a prison release. Immaculate is doing a lot of work in that sentence. Almost like the word was chosen for the headline it would make. Almost. The read, bottom line. Blueface didn't come home and start a family. He came home and launched a season. The family is real. The baby is real. The due date is real. The ticket for the mom is real. But every real thing has been routed through the monetization layer first. And that ordering is the whole story. The love might be genuine. The distribution strategy definitely is. Chew on that one. And because this channel doesn't do bottom lines without stress testing its own, let's turn the lens around once before we move forward. Is it possible that both things are fully true at once? That the season is real and the family is real, with no contradiction at all? Honestly, yes. That's the resolution that makes this saga genuinely uncomfortable instead of just gossip-worthy. The old categories assumed you had to choose. Either the camera is on and it's fake, or the camera is off and it's real. That binary is dead, and this stream is the corpse. What the nail salon tape actually documents is a third thing. A relationship that is genuine in its content and commercial in its delivery, simultaneously, at every moment, with no seam between the two, because the people inside it no longer experience a seam. He didn't fake the pampering. He didn't fake the survey. He didn't fake the plane ticket. He just routed all of it through the broadcast layer first. The way you and I route a photo through our camera roll before we've decided if we like the moment. Scale that habit up to thousands of live viewers and a decade of franchise gravity. And you get August in a Los Angeles nail shop. The show is the relationship. The relationship is the show. And the baby, due on the 24th, is about to be born into a world where that sentence isn't an accusation. It's a job description. So where does this go? 3 roads, no labels. Let's walk them. The path most likely to land. Watch the next 2 weeks turn into a birth rollout. Don't be shocked when labor content arrives in real time. The man's already said, I want to go into labor energy is in the house. Nevaeh said it herself on stream. Expect a name and face reveal packaged as an exclusive, because they've already proven the shower can sit behind a paywall. The first thing baby Solar learns to crawl toward will be a ring light. And the specific failure I predict for the other side? The circus cast members who think ignoring the new baby era will starve it. It won't. Absence just makes you a survey question. Ask anyone who's ever been voted biggest snake in absentia. Let's put some shape on what that rollout probably looks like, because the templates are already sitting in the record. First, the announcement cadence. This couple confirms milestones on stream with verification attached. That's the established pattern from a conception date confirmation. A birth announcement built the same way isn't speculation, it's extrapolation. Second, the monetization layer. The registry-gated shower, per the Shade Room's note, proved the audience will transact for access to a milestone. The birth is the biggest milestone on the calendar. Expect the gate to scale with a milestone, not because anyone's a villain, but because that's what the word proven means in a business context. Third, the media lane. The same-day TMZ pipeline we documented on July 31st, per their own piece, means the coverage doesn't even need to be pitched anymore. The stream is the press release. Watch for the headline built from his own commentary within a news cycle of the birth. Set a reminder. I'll wait. The path that flips the table. By the end of the year, expect the post-birth content gap to get filled the way it always gets filled in this universe, with a return of a legacy character. The Jaden chapter has a decade of on-again, off-again gravity, and the Krasian storyline never actually closes. It just goes dormant. Once the newborn content normalizes and the metrics dip, and they always dip, watch how fast a familiar name re-enters the chat. The failure prediction here is Nevaeh's. The survey answers were already telling her which two names the audience spammed when asked who's bad for her man. The audience knows the sequel before the cast does. That's the risk of letting your focus group write the show. And the mechanics of the dip deserve a paragraph, because metrics dip is doing a lot of quiet work in that prediction. Here's the cycle, and it's documented across the entire creator economy. Not just the circus. Novelty spikes, novelty decays, and the decay rate is merciless. A birth is the single biggest novelty event this format can produce, which also makes it the steepest cliff on the other side. Day 1 newborn content is nuclear. Day 30 newborn content is a sleep schedule, and the audience, trained by a decade of on-again, off-again gravity and dormant but never-closed storylines, has been conditioned to expect conflict as the baseline programming. Domestic contentment does not trend. It has never trended. It will never trend. So when the numbers soften, and they will soften, that's arithmetic, not cynicism. The producer faces the same choice every franchise faces in a soft quarter. Develop a new character, or reactivate a legacy one. New characters cost time to build. Legacy characters are pre-sold. You saw the survey. He already knows which names the audience spammed. The sequel isn't a possibility. It's an inventory decision waiting for a slow week. And the aftershock 5 years out. This is the part that should actually concern people. Once this model fully proves out, conception to content pipeline, shower paywalls, birth exclusives, expect a wave of imitators. Streamer relationships already treat anniversaries as episodes. The next step is treating children as season premieres. And the Blueface Nevaeh run is the proof of concept sitting in everyone's recommended feed. The industry residue won't be a song or a scandal. It'll be a format. Formats don't die, they get franchised. Let's be clear-eyed about why the imitation wave is a near certainty and not a hot take. Formats spread for one reason. They de-risk decisions. Every creator manager, every aspiring streamer couple, every small agency watching this run is not seeing a scandal. They're seeing a case study with receipts. A shower that reportedly converted guests into customers, per the Shade Room. A news cycle that ran on self-supplied commentary, per TMZ. A 9-month arc where not one milestone went unmonetized, and the audience never shrank. It's segmented. If you work in this industry, and you're not studying this run, you're bad at your job. And the part nobody in the industry will say out loud. The baby doesn't get a vote. Baby Solar will be a teenager before he can legally consent to any of the archive he was born into. And by then the format will have a generation of graduates. That's not an allegation against anyone in this story. That's just what proof of concept means when the concept is a childhood. The 5 years out question isn't whether this gets franchised. It's whether anyone, platforms, audiences, the industry itself, ever builds a brake pedal. History says the audience is the brake pedal. History also says the audience has never once used it, which leaves one question hanging over all of it. And it's the one the nail salon tape can't answer. When every real moment is routed through the camera first, what's left that belongs to just the two of them? The toes, apparently. Allegedly. You got the version with the survey questions in it. Nobody else clipped those. Run it back if you need to. Like, subscribe, hit the bell. Because the birth rollout is loading, and we'll be live on it. Drop your take below. Is the circus a family or a format? Wrong answers welcome. Fame cryptics. Next one's already cooking. Let's go.